Hi, agents, and welcome back to the show. This is Katlyn Eggar, your host, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys about all things recruiting and talent today. You've been following the past couple topics. We've talked about team building and how to coach based on different personality types. And today we're chatting with someone who is a pro at all things team building and culture. And so before I dive into that, if you haven't had a chance to click subscribe, would love for you to get that notification every Monday so we can keep you posted on what's going on, and just really excited about our guest lineup. So without further ado, I wanted to welcome Brett Young to the podcast. Hi, Brett. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. And I've really been looking forward to this conversation. We are in an insurance agents mastermind together for agency intelligence, and a topic came up on the thread about recruiting and team building. And we started chatting in the comments, and I knew that we had to have a podcast episode about this. So thanks for coming on the show.
Oh man, I'm super fired up. It took a little bit, but I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
And I know most of the agents listening probably already know who you are. Brett, you are the CEO at Erb and Young agency. And so tell us a little bit about your agency in Orlando, Florida, which, by the way, super smart place to locate your agency if anybody's looking. We'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's central, right? So so Erb and Young was 10 years ago. This year was 10 years, which is a cool, thank you so much. It was a cool milestone. So, but we share the Scratch insurance agency startup, that background, which is super cool. We were just talking offline, but 10 years ago, I worked in the direct sales business for about 5 years and had some good experience and good success there, and decided I wanted to get into the insurance space. It was an insurance product. I wanted to get in the P&C space. And I went and worked for a company for about a year and a half, 13, 14 months. And so many agents have the experience, had a really bad scenario, turned out to be one of the best decisions, or not any decisions, one of the best things that happened to me. I signed a non-compete. That was a very large non-compete. And I was promised to have a significant vesting in my book. It was a 100% commission job. I had no experience other than I was given a laptop, and I went and hunt and I killed. I moved to another city with my new wife, and made $13,000 my first year. And on my renewal season, where finally at least some relief was coming, they decided to change the game on me and said, "Oh, we're just kidding. We're not going to do the deal that we gave you. But we do know that you signed a big non-compete. And I was foolish at the time. I didn't get anything in writing other than the fact that I, was kind of forced into this space where, I had rules and regulations to guide me if I left." And at that point, my wife, I was like, you know what, it's fine. I'll just ride it out. It is what it is. And I had, speaking of recruiting and team building, I had brought 4 of the guys and gals that had worked with me at my past life over here to build a sales team out, because I wasn't looking to start an agency. And she just looked at me after I was trying to justify why it was okay, because it wasn't. After she had, obviously sacrificed so much, and we had sacrificed so much, was just, you can't work there. That's not the integrity of somewhere that you're going to be. So she's the hero, and she kind of just kicked me out and said, "Don't come back until you find another place to work." So I went and I interviewed with all the major big box shops in the independent space, and had a couple of them that I had wanted to work for before I took this job. By the way, I got that job. I just went on Craigslist and got my first gig after I passed my license. But after I looked at a couple of different places, I realized that it just wasn't the right culture for me. Wasn't the right place to build a team that I felt comfortable with. It was a lot of good cop, bad cop, a lot of corporate, and that was just not my style. It wasn't just where I fit. So it kind of came out of just necessity of starting from a place of like, okay, what do we do now? So my current business partner and my brother was getting out of school, and I looked at them and said, "Hey, I've got this crazy idea to start an insurance agency. You guys want to go along the ride with me?" I only had, a year worth of experience in the P&C world, and they had basically none. And they said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." So that's it. We decided to do something that if we would have known how hard it was, we probably would have started. And 3 years later, we caught some traction, and we built a pretty nice business at this point. So we have about 20, I think we have 26 team members now. We're in Orlando, we're in Melbourne, we're in Jupiter, Florida, and we're opening St. Petersburg, Florida here in the next week. So been a cool ride over the last couple of years. It took a little bit, but it is the nature of the beast. So it's been super fun and feel super blessed.
That's amazing. So congratulations. And it's not easy to get your feet planted in the independent world and get an agency up and running. So it's nice that you had some trusted team members with you to help you kick off the agency. I know that Justin and I really relied on each other when we opened our first insurance agency 10 years ago. And it's really come a long way. That you guys are just experiencing explosive growth. Your team culture is getting stronger and stronger. So what's it like to work on Brett's team?
Oh man, that's tough. Number one, it's not my team. But I would hope, God, that's a tough one. We should interview some of the squad, but I would hope that it's, I hope that it is fun, but uncomfortable. You know, we push hard and we don't apologize for it. And it's kind of like having a seat at the table. If you want a seat at the table, like there's a certain level of it that's required. But man, when it clicks, you know, it is dynamically unique to have a group of people who are operating at a frequency that is just clicking, and that's, you know, that's making progress and that's moving. So I think it's challenging. I think it's fast paced. I think it's quick, but I think at the end of the day, it's super fulfilling to see, you know, watching people, you know, come in to point A and, you know, they can move to point, you know, D or E in a short amount of time. I think people kind of wake up and realize what's possible for them. So, so we have a good time, but you know, we get after it.
That's awesome. That's one of the things we say at Quantum is that our goal isn't to make it easy. That's not the top of mind thing. You know, the best things in life to be had are often hard to achieve, but we want you to be successful. We want to take the mystery out of what it takes to succeed. We want to remove any unnecessary barriers that don't need to be there and knock those down. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Yeah, we have a term in here that says embrace the suck. And whatever you're going through and whatever, you know, and I love that. I call it selective hardship, right? Hardship is a part of life. So you might as well, you know, face into the wind and really enjoy it because it's just part of the deal. So no, that journey for the first 3 years in the business is, you know, that story, I guess, is, you know, probably one of my most prized possessions because what it takes to be successful, what it takes to break through a barrier, that there's no shortcuts, you know, like you can have a fancy sharp axe, but the fact of the matter is you still have to swing it. And so, you know, I think sometimes that's something I have to remind myself to not make it too easy because it's not supposed to be. But I agree with you, right? You want to give people the tools. I think a lot of that journey in the beginning was we didn't have the right tools. We didn't know what we were doing. So how can we, you know, do what's called success compression? So how do we take that 3.5 years and shrink that down to 1.5 years? And if we could do that at the same level of intensity and understanding what's available and the fact that it's still going to be tough, I like that. That's a mission I could sign up for. I dig that.
In the mom world, we call it learn to love what must be done. You'll see that over a couple.
Oh man, that's perfect for the
washing
mom world.
machines right there. Yeah. Laundry rooms. But it's so true. And it's such a forgiving industry because it's such a fantastic business model. It gives us a little time to a little wiggle room to try some things. We've tried bunches of things over the years that failed and didn't work, and it can suck sometimes. So you mentioned that it feels awesome when things are clicking along smoothly. So I definitely want to unpack that. But what are some of the times when things just gummed up the gears and like weren't clicking?
Oh man, how much time do you have? No, like it's so funny. Like you remember the times that you're walking, you know, uphill in snow, right? Barefoot. I mean, some of the tough times or some of the times it didn't click. Our business model in the beginning was we had 3 partners, right? So in the beginning, you're trying to feed yourself, right? And then let alone, it was very nice to have partners. And I'm a huge huge fan of partnerships. I wouldn't do this if I didn't have my partners. They're amazing. It's just in the beginning, you don't realize how tough it is to feed 3 mouths at the exact same time with a scratch startup. That's very difficult. So in the beginning, we were going out and using our own relationships and going out and earning business and bringing it back and writing it, very independent, right? Like, okay, hey, everybody, let's go out and let's write business. And that's how we'll work this. And it was choppy, it was very individual. It was very, there was no workflow, it wasn't streamlined. So
can't scale it because everyone's doing their own thing and they're inconsistent, up one month, down the other.
Absolutely. That's a great way to say it. So, is this going to work if we add 6, 7, 8 people? And the answer was no, this is choppy. So there was a moment where we decided to kind of delineate roles between the 3 of us and kind of have a proper workflow. It took humility because not everybody wanted to do the specific things, right? Some people want to, everybody wants to do the sexy job, but not everybody wants to do the non-sexy job. So that took some humility and some just understanding and communication. But when that happened, from going out into the community and acquiring the business to quoting the business to converting the business and to servicing the business, that whole streamline, we started to catch some really good traction. And that's when we started to say, okay, we're developing a model that's scalable at this point.
As you guys have scaled, how have you had to adapt your team culture to support that growth?
I think it's about the components, right? You have the marketing, then you have the actual salesmanship, then you have the relationship management, right? There's really 3 components in our business. And, although those across the whole, I guess, life cycle of a customer, there are compatible qualities that make that experience great for a customer and that can make you successful in any prong. Although what I have found is it does take specific skill sets in each of those 3 buckets. So kind of making sure that you're attracting and recruiting the right type of talent for whichever position you obviously need on the bus. But then once someone, masters a specific set of skill sets in that spectrum, then it's an opportunity for, hey, they can grow into, I have a lot of guys that are really great their salesmanship is fantastic. They're great at converting, business. People, they love them. But when it comes to going out and getting and making the phone ring, right, and acquiring business from a standpoint of on that front end of the customer acquisition, they have a really hard time with that, right? That's a completely different skill set. If I give them 50 opportunities and say, treat these with gold and do a great job and make them fall in love with you, create raving fans, they're great. But when it comes to, here are a couple different ways that you can go out and get those 50 opportunities, that's a whole different skill set. So
Totally.
I think knowing where you need to stack talent and then being able to develop that talent once you have it, so if you have somebody that's great with relationship management and they're I call them more a care bear, like they just love taking care of people.
Yeah.
And it is a skill set. They're very patient, right? Like making sure that if you're giving that person an opportunity that maybe they want to go do the marketing, maybe they want to change scenery, maybe they want to get out,
Yeah.
But you're not gonna, if you have a marketing position available or you need to go make the phone ring and pound the pavement, if you have somebody that has that skill set, you're not going to try to make them something that they're not. So for us, it's a matter of just, as you get bigger and as you scale, right, it becomes easier to figure out where is someone going to be successful, because when early on they're wearing 7 different hats. And as you grow and as you add team members, you just become more specialized in what you do, right? 4 jobs all of a sudden becomes 2, right? I have 2 activities instead of 4. I mean, just when you start a business, you have 15 different hats, right? And as you close the gap, you start to really find where your highest payoff activities are, and you try to stay within those, stay within that framework.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that specialization of roles really helped you guys be able to maximize the productivity, as opposed to having someone working on marketing, sales, and relationship management all at the same time. And it makes sense because if you have a salesperson who also has to juggle making the phone ring, then that means there has to be a huge amount of time management going in and a huge amount of tracking to see what's working, as opposed to just being on the phone or meeting with someone and having that conversation. And if they're really great at those effective conversations, if we can get them in front of the right person, we'll see a lot of productivity from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's a progression to this, right? So, like some of our guys that are running offices, right? They're great salespeople, but moving to that next state where we call a market maker. A market maker is very different than a quality agent. A market maker has specific qualities that are unique to just creating awareness around what you do. So, once someone, you can dabble, right? So usually the life cycle is if they're doing really well and they're growing their salesmanship and they're growing sales, at some point they go, okay, let me get out in the field a little bit, and they start to get out in the field a little bit, and once they start to gain some traction, and it's like, okay, well, this higher payoff is bringing in this type of business, then we'll either work with them to build a team around them, or we'll build the team around them. And in turn, they start to allow other people to take those calls and make those sales. And, because they figure out that their highest payoff activity is no longer being on the phone. Their highest payoff activity is being out and developing relationships that are bringing in those referrals.
Totally. So when you guys are thinking about your recruiting strategy, do you look for talent year round? Do you have a process that you apply to deciding that you have an open position? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is a mantra, and a huge fanatic of this is just always be recruiting. There is no, we're open for recruiting, we're hiring. We are 100% always.
You can always afford good talent.
You can always afford good talent. I can't tell you how many of the team members in here, we've got some incredible women in here that are just dynamic as it gets. And we weren't recruiting, we weren't hiring. There was no positions available, but you come across somebody that's a culture fit first and that has all the skill sets to be successful. You can't afford to pass on those people. So you should have a margin on your virtual bench. Like sometimes sometimes you're understaffed and sometimes you're overstaffed, but it's very unlikely, and it's usually a lightning in a bottle if all of a sudden you look at it and go, wow, I'm at perfect capacity with the right amount of people. Just because if you run into somebody that's going to be a quality fit, like you might wait it might be a year or 2 years before you get an opportunity for that. And at that point, now you're understaffed and you're like, oh my goodness, what I would give right now to have not passed on that person. So right. Just now you have to be in a financial position to be able to do that, but leave yourself some margin, because we don't always get to pick who shows up. Right. And you definitely don't, you never want to pass on somebody that's going to be a long-term fit. That person could work for you for 10, 15 years and be an absolute stud. And that's just, that's what keeps me up at night. It's the missed opportunities. So yeah, no doubt. We're always recruiting.
What does that look like? Do you guys do events, LinkedIn? Do you have a recruiting team? Do you use a vendor?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know we were talking offline about you guys have an entire, you've built out a department and a team for that, which I love that. That's a awesome thing that maybe I'll turn the camera around. I interview you here for a second, but and I've heard that other podcast, but so I'm sitting in this studio that we built out. We do a lot of content that it's been, recently where we've made a decision that our greatest, weapon, I guess, is our story, in our people and our culture and how we approach the business versus how we do the business. And all content is just telling that story over and over again in micro doses. So content has been a massive strategy in regards to kind of showing the heart of who we are. And that is a very magnetic marketing approach to people asking, hey, what do you guys do? Or are you hiring? What would this look like? So that's number one. And then number two, it's creating a culture of recruiting, right? Everyone in here knows that we are always recruiting. It's continually talked about that they are the best recruiters, that their network, that there are just absolute gold of people that are begging for an opportunity, that are, overworked, underpaid, very unhappy, looking for purpose, and and quite frankly, on their knees at night, asking for something to come into their life that's going to fulfill what they're looking for. So, and we just genuinely believe that we have that opportunity. So, I think once you have a collective group of people that believe genuinely that you have that, there is just this significant reach that you have to where people are knocking on your door instead of you necessarily going out and knocking on doors. And then for me, specifically my role, I am a team builder at heart. That was my passion before I got into the property casualty business. I absolutely love that. That's my number one thing in business that I love doing. So for me, my day is occupied by doing that. I'm out meeting people and building relationships. And to me, every single person is a prospect. But that doesn't mean that I'm pitching an opportunity to work for Erb and Young. I just got a call yesterday from somebody that we talked 5 years ago about an opportunity to open an office. And she was very happy. She's very good. And we just been friends. So, and she's called me up randomly out of the blue. So, and that happens a lot if you just stay in the game long enough and you just are continually making sure that you stay in touch with people. So, my day is occupied by that, but most of the team is just on a regular basis, always looking, for talent, which is nice.
Yeah. And it sounds like that strong internal culture that you have has really impacted your external messaging, and it's reaching people that are outside of your agency that want to be a part of it.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. That's awesome. People talk about creating raving fans from an external standpoint. So what we developed was we defined what our ecosystem looked like in here probably, 5 years ago through our life cycle of our 10 years. And we made a decision, not by textbook, but just by looking at kind of what we cared about and how we operate the business, was that team members was first, referral partners were second, clients were third, and then insurance carrier partners were fourth. And by no way or means do I want to dilute the importance of any four of those components. But when we're making decisions and we're deciding how we're going to operate our business, at the core of what we do, we've got to have filters of why we do things, especially when we're faced with tough decisions. And so for us, it's always been about recruiting. It's always been about team members. So everything that we do has to pass through those filters. So that has created that internal culture of community, of trust, of doing what's best for the team first. And in turn, being able to create those raving fans internally first instead of externally, I think has been a huge driver in saying, okay, hey, we've been doing this for years with just us. I think there's power in sharing this story externally, and I hope people dig it. And I think the reaction and the feedback that we've got from people is that it's genuine and people really love it. Because I think even if you don't have a workspace where you get to participate in that, I think all of us want to feel like there are places out there like that are doing the things that we all say on paper are important. So I think even if it's not somebody that's connected with us directly, I think I just got an email a week ago and it was somebody saying, I will always be with you guys as long as you guys continue to operate the business the way they operate the business with the team. And I thought that was cool. It had nothing to do with insurance, right?
Wow.
It was a rate increase. It was like in Florida, we have just massive rate increases. So it was an email about, hey, we want you to keep you as a customer. We're doing our best to find you another option, but we are in crazy times. And that was a cool response. That was good feedback that says people care about the heart of your organization too, not just about what you do, but kind of more or less about who you are.
Absolutely. They do. And it makes them feel very secure. And that's what we're looking to communicate in the insurance conversation. So it goes a long way when they know that they're working with good people and that your company's taking care of people. So speaking of those tough decisions that you mentioned, I don't think there's anything harder than having a candidate in front of you and having to decide if they're a good fit for your team or not. So obviously you guys have a high bar this person's going to have to live up to. But what, I don't know, from my experience, it's hard to get to know somebody in a couple conversations, and you know that they're putting their best foot forward at the time, and you have to kind of sift through some of those things and think about whether or not they're going to be the right fit. You know, they'll be the right fit for some company somewhere, but are they the right fit for our company right now? And it's not always easy. It's not always straightforward to make that call. So talk me through that decision-making process for you guys.
Well, yeah, that's a great, we have a very, it's very, well, let me back up, because it is a specific process, and it takes a little bit longer, but for us, it's been invaluable to figure out who somebody is during like a job interview, because it's tough, right? Just looking through a resume and having an interview and doing a group interview, it's so formal that it's not really us. We do all that to go through, make sure we're not missing anything, but we try to make it genuine to who we are first, because obviously they're coming into our ecosystem. If we want to put forth what our true message is, because if it doesn't jive, then it doesn't jive, right? So, but I think three things, like I'm always asking, what's in it for them. And as a recruiter, I think you need to ask yourself, like, what truly is in it for this person to come work for the organization? And it can't be money. Money's a given, right? Like that's like saying you have good service. Well, good, congratulations, you're in business. Everybody else is doing the exact same thing, right? So, and we boiled it down to four things. It's either fun, you have a social environment. For us, it's personal development. There's personal growth opportunities here. And four, there's a noble cause, some sort of noble cause that you have. So those four components, I think, give value to the person that you're speaking with. And you have to ask yourself, the question is your genuine value propositions one of those four or two of those four? Does that really match what that person's looking for? Because they have a need, they're talking to you for a specific need. And if you took the money away from it, what is important to them? And does your value proposition fit that? So I'm always looking for that, because if it doesn't jive, then it's about the money. And if it's about the money, then there's always going to be somebody that's willing to pay somebody more than I am. And there's always somebody that's willing to pay less. So that's not a long-term fit. And then secondly, what type of skills do they have? Like skills equity. Do they have the proper skills that we need as a company that's going to allow them to come in and contribute? People are looking for that. They're looking for the ability to say, oh, I have this specific skill set and it's needed, so I could feel valuable and worthy, right? Like if I come in here and I don't have any skills that they need, but they're trying to train me, well, that's one thing and that's great, but I don't get that sense of dopamine injection once I get to a company because I'm not able to contribute. And I think people genuinely want to contribute. And then three is I'm always looking to sell the dream, because ultimately, a lot of times people can't see what's truly available for themselves. They're looking 90 days, 6 months, a year. I need a job. What's the next chapter? I got downsized. Do I want to start my own business? Do I want to go into the insurance business? Somebody said it was a good business, right? So being able to paint the picture of what's available to them based on where they're at, their skill sets, and being genuine, I think we can do a better job in this business of selling what's available, selling the dream, because at the end of the day, people need that to be able to see a roadmap. So during those three kind of things that I'm looking for, we'll ask some interview questions, but ultimately we actually go across the street and we grab a beer. And that's the most important thing that we do. So we'll do a primary interview with the team lead, then they'll bring in an owner and we'll do an interview with an owner, because there's three of us at Erb and Young. And then after that, we usually have 3 or 4 of us go across the street. It used to be just 3 of us, and now it's the team that they're going to be working with, and just kind of hang out for an hour. And that is by far the most important, prudent, best way to tell if somebody's going to be a fit, because we're looking, number one, like 99% of what we're looking for is, are they going to be a culture fit? Do they fit the values? And are they going to have a good time? Do they want to grow? And do they play well with others? So for us, it's a 3-prong attack. If they can do well on the first 2 interviews, and then 3, well, they pass the peers test, and we can enjoy hanging out with this person, even after hours, then that's a fit for us. We could teach all the skills.
That's interesting. So when you guys have the peers test, what are just examples of 1 or 2 things that they might say or do that would give you indication that they are here to grow, or they are going to be a team player? Is it things like they're, asking good questions, or they're enthusiastic? What are some things that stand out?
I think number one, I think just genuine energy is a big one, right? Like,
That's going
is
to
this
be a
person,
huge
does this,
culture indicator. Mhm.
yeah, like I think as a person, you either brighten a room or you darken a room every time you walk into it. You don't have to say a word. It's just your energy about you is something that contributes or it takes away. So that's number one. And I think you tell that in social settings specifically. And then number two, there may be a situation. Why are they leaving their employer? What happened? What are their past experiences? What's important to them? Have they ever taken a pay cut in pursuit of something greater? I look for that because that tells me that they're after something. That tells me that they're after something more than money. And it's just funny how it works, right? The more you grow personally, the more money you make. So the money takes care of itself, but that's important for me when I look at that and when I hear when we're having a conversation. And then, candidly, it's about some of the other relationships in their life. How's their relationship with their spouse? To talk about their kids. Like what about they might have a conversation about their community, that they do stuff with their neighborhood, and they might do stuff with their church. And there's just that community involvement with other people that I look for is important, just because it shows that they can be a good friend. It shows that they can be a good partner. It shows they can be a great peer. So man, it's just those soft skills that like seem so elementary, but when we run through resumes and skill sets and we so focus on doing the job, we forget that we're hiring a person. We're not hiring a resume. And I think so much about recruiting is being able to peel back all the stuff from job experience and see like, who is this person? And I just think that sequence it's just worked well for us. And that wasn't like something we decided that we're going to do on a board and execute it. It just progressively happened because that's just genuine to us. I want to go across the street and hang out with my team leads and have a beer and talk about life, so just naturally culture is a reflection of the people who are operating it. So we just want people to have that same buy-in, that's what they care about.
That's so awesome. And I can't imagine someone leaving that meeting and not wanting to be a part of the Erb and Young team. So I think that's great that they get to chat with the people they're going to be working with, get a sense for what the vision is, and then they're already excited about the growth and the difference that they're going to make. And then when you talk about selling the dream, the impression I get from you isn't selling this pie in the sky opportunity, but making sure you've articulated that insurance is a life-changing industry and that you may not have considered how impactful this really can be to your personal and professional growth, and what it can mean to your family and what it can mean to your future. And so making sure they understand that, I think, is huge, because insurance is that opportunity around the corner that many people have never considered. And I hate to see somebody pass up on that or miss out on it.
Yeah, I think our industry is very unique in a sense of like, there is just an unlimited amount of not only income that you can make, but autonomy. It is just, I have not seen a business, if you can be successful, where you have just an absolute, you get it all, but there's a price to pay for that, right? Like, so in it usually when you step into the insurance space, spare me what like you have to start from a certain place. And so many times I've had conversations with people that are doing really well. They're a 6-figure earner at their company in a completely different industry, and they come in the insurance space and they're, well, what do I have to do to stay at this income level? I'm like, well, you haven't earned that stripe yet, right? Like you have to take a pay cut. And I've got guys in here that are now doing the same amount where they came from, but they had to take a significant pay cut to come in. You don't get autonomy, time, freedom, and income, and team, all the stuff you get here without paying a price. And I think all of us are asking the question is the prize worth the price? All of us, whatever we do. And when you look at insurance for its face value of when you're starting off, it's so easy to say, God, that's just a tough price to pay. I don't know if I'm willing to pay that price. So it's so important that we sell the dream, because it is available and it is tangible and it is not that difficult, but you have to be willing to put in the work and let time take care of itself. But also it's like when people are here, it's, hey, be here a year from now, be here a year from now, be here a year from now. There is a certain amount of equity that needs to be put in to build a book of business that you just can't rush it. You just can't rush. So we live in a space where time is on our side as long as we allow time to be our side. So, it's important to sell the dream to make sure that people know that this is a long-term deal and it's worth it, because there are going to be tough days. There are going to be tough situations. There are other jobs you can go out and get a quick fix, and this is just not one of them.
Now that you've walked us through like that process of, you're always recruiting, they find out about your agency, they want to be a part of it, they've had this meeting and now they're on the team. Now I have 100 questions about how you get them plugged in and onboarded from there. So maybe one day, you'll be able to carve out some time and come back on the show and walk me through that entire experience, because there's just got to be so much good stuff in there. But before we wrap up today, Brett, I'm going to throw a couple interviewing questions at you, and I just want to pick your brain on this. So your interviewing process sounds pretty genuine, and it sounds like, a good experience for probably most people that come through your agency. What are some things out there that interviewers are doing that they need to stop doing?
Well, this is all opinion. So I'll just preface it to say that I'm not an expert. It's my opinion. I think one of the major things that I have a problem with interviews is I think a lot of people try to make people uncomfortable.
On purpose, to like put them in the hot seat.
Yeah, they try to, how do they perform under pressure? And to me, that is the absolute opposite that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get them comfortable so I can just genuinely see who they are. Because on a Tuesday at 10:30 a.m., after they've been in the organization for 4 months, they're not coming in on the hot seat. They're comfortable. They are being genuine to who they are. So I'm not trying to see how they're going to perform under this pressure. I want to know who they genuinely are as a person. So I think that's number one, is creating these very difficult, complex, uncomfortable questions to try to get somebody, to give you some witty answer. I don't understand the purpose of that. So that's one. And then number two, I don't, if you're somebody who values a culture-driven organization and people-first organization, I just genuinely think that getting outside the office is important. Getting somebody to relax is important. I can't tell you how many people have told me just stuff that has made us not hire them. And I'm thankful for that. It's just, I know that they wouldn't be a good fit. I just knew they wouldn't be successful here. One of which was they had too high expectation of what it was going to take to build a book of business. Right. So it was easy to just say, hey, look, you can get there, but you're not going to get there fast enough. If you're not willing to do this, I just want to say this probably isn't an opportunity. So, and if I didn't take the time to slow down and get them in a space where they felt comfortable enough to talk to me, I'm going to invest all this time in this person to find out what I could have done in, 2 conversations with them if I just would have slowed down.
So flip side of that coin, Brett, what's some advice you have for someone who might be interviewing for a new role?
Oh man.
Probably write a book on it.
Yeah. Just humility, don't ever badmouth your past employers. And humility in the sense that you don't have it all figured out, and that you're searching and you're hungry to learn more. So many times I'll watch people talk about how well they did at their past places, and you want to highlight that stuff, but you also want to say, I was able to create this type of success. I was able to do this, but I know that there was more in the tank. Here's what I learned from that process where I could have given more. I think that just shows that your angle comes from a place of like, yeah, I did have some success, but I know that I could have done more. And here's what I've learned to be able to apply that to the next time. So
that self-reflection is invaluable.
It is invaluable. So awareness of what you're good at, awareness of what you're not good at. But to me, all that comes down to just humility, right? So if somebody is standing in front of you and they're just transparent and they have genuine humility, to me, that says they're coachable. And if you're coachable, then we can get to wherever you need to go, as long as you're the right person. But if you're not coachable, it doesn't really matter what skill sets you have, unless you're the Michael Jordan of those skill sets, because we're going to battle. And then that's just not a good situation for anybody.
Oh man, having that coachable attitude goes such a long way. And it does. Getting outside of that comfort zone, embracing the suck, as you guys say it. And so, Brett, thanks for breaking that down for us. And just to recap, agents, Brett's process for chatting with a candidate and communicating that value proposition of your agency. Outside of the compensation, what else are you going to do to create that fun social environment where they know they can develop personally and grow and be pushing forward that noble cause together, I think is such a great takeaway for all of us. So thank you for sharing. And I know it's a fun time for the Erb and Young team. You guys have your leadership summit coming up. You guys are going to be having a great time.
We're going to have a blast, man. Super fun. We get off site every year and we blow it out. We do 2 days of personal development, not professional development. We spend some time on some subjects to, as part of that noble cause is people come, if you want to, coming into this organization, I promise you won't leave the same way. So we grow people, not insurance agents. So we'll spend some time working on ourselves and fellowship and having fun. And it's the Super Bowl event of our year. So we're pretty fired up.
That's so awesome. So I hope you guys have a fantastic event, and thanks for coming on the show. How can our listeners reach out to you if they have questions about recruiting or your agency?
Well, number one, thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan. You guys do such a great job. And, there's what is that? Matthew McConaughey, everybody needs somebody to chase. So I'm chasing you. But no, I really appreciate you having me on the show today. Super fun. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on Instagram. We have our corporate profiles. We have my personal profile. Taylor Young is my other business partner. Rod Erb is my other business partner. That's usually the best place to follow. We put out a ton of content. Some of it's, educational. Some of it's just fun. At the end of the day, it just kind of shows our heart of what we do and who we are. So yeah, if you guys just drop me a connection, I'd love to chat. But candidly, wealthy people build networks. Everyone else looks for work. So if there's anybody that's listening to this, I'm super stoked about the independent agent community that's happening right now online. There's just some incredible operators that have come together to get better. So I've never been more geeked about kind of where the industry's heading. So I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for sharing with us and just unpacking some great steps that we can all apply. And that way we can make sure we're always recruiting year round, just like you're always selling, always marketing. We should always be recruiting. So thanks for tuning in, agents, to this episode of the Age of Independence. I hope this episode sparked some great ideas for you, sparked that entrepreneurial spirit. And I wish you guys a super successful week. Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.